Okay. Oh my god, it's perfect. Hello friends and welcome back. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. We've never really done anything like this on the channel before, but this is part one of a multi-part series, which is kind of exciting. I've never done a episodic series, but our project for today is pretty big and I think it's going to take more than one video to cover. But to give you a little bit of backstory before I tell you what we're doing today, I want to talk about how this project came to be. About 2 weeks ago, I was perusing the aisles at Michael's, which is my most favorite craft store. I had some rewards. I was just seeing what was out there, just looking around, just see what looked fun. And I stumbled across this really cute wooden dollhouse. And I was like, that would be so fun. I would love to decorate a dollhouse. That would be so fun. And it looked like it was like the perfect size for calico critters. And I love calico critters and I have quite a few, but my calico critters already have a dollhouse. I was like, I'll pass on it. Fast forward to my birthday vlog, I was able to get my hands on my very first Sonny Angels. I absolutely love these guys. I think that they are adorable. I am so stoked to have them and I absolutely will be collecting more of them in the future. But now that I've had these guys floating around on my desk, I have started thinking about what is a way I could display these, because I don't have anywhere for these little guys to live. And if I want to start collecting more, they're going to have somewhere to go, because I don't want them just sitting around everywhere. Which immediately got me thinking about that dollhouse. And I was like, it's perfect. What do you mean? Oh my god, that's perfect. That's literally exactly what I need. So I immediately hit the road, headed straight back to Michael's, and well, I'll put the footage in here. Y'all, look how adorable. And I think it'll fit my Sonny Angels. Okay. And it's got a handle. Stop. Oh, it absolutely will. Oh my god, it's perfect. We have to test the theory. Moment of truth. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? That's a wrap. I am genuinely so excited about this. Oh my god. Here she is. And she is beautiful. I just love it. I just love it. It is such a cute little house. We're going to be decorating this bad boy inside and out. It's going to be a lot of work. And that is exactly why we're breaking this up into a multi-part series, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do all of it in one video. So for this episode, we are only going to focus on the exterior of the house. Now, I have all kinds of ideas for the interior of the house, but we're not going to talk about those today. We're going to save those for the next part. Now, I really want the house to match this kind of 60s simple vintage baby doll style. So I want to really make sure that these guys look like they live there. I want the house to sort of match their energy, if you will. So I'm going to be using a lot of pastels. I want it to be almost as if it was illustrated. Like, I want to try and paint it to look like a fairy tale dollhouse. Okay, folks. We're starting on the very first step of the project, which is not actually painting. I have decided that I want to re-shingle the roof on the house. It's kind of already got this like laser engraved shingle texture going on, but I'm not a big fan of it. I want it to be a little bit more dimensional and realistic. So for this, I have gathered a bunch of trash, and I'm going to use this trash to cut up a bunch of cardboard shingles, and I'm going to glue those to the roof, and then we can start painting. So I'm just going to start cutting up all these boxes into a bunch of shingles and start gluing them on. I have to admit, I honestly love doing any kind of DIY or craft projects that involve cutting up cardboard and trash and recycled materials and just like turning it into something new. I think it's important to remember that you can use what you have and you don't always have to go out and buy new craft supplies. I absolutely could have gone out and bought some popsicle sticks or pre-made shingles from, the miniature section, but I was like, you know what, I might as well just try and use what I already have, and in the end, I think it turned out better than any store-bought shingles. I basically just cut my cardboard into a bunch of strips, and then from there, I cut it down into a bunch of little shingles. I wasn't really worried about them being the same size, because in the end, if they're all a little bit imperfect, I think that just adds to the sort of illustrated storybook style. And now that I've got all my shingles cut, it's time to start hot gluing these bad boys on. Now, you guys know I've got a love-hate relationship with the hot glue. It's, we're not good friends most of the time. But here I am putting on my first shingle of the house, and what do you know, I glued it on upside down. Ain't that just my luck? I mean, hey, we all have to start somewhere. I mean, I can't say that I've shingled a roof before, but here I am picking off the hot glue because it's going to bother me if that's the only one that's facing the wrong way. So I do unfortunately have to pick that off. But once I got going in the right direction, it was smooth sailing from there. I just glued on each little shingle at a time. Now, it was a very tedious process, but in the end, the effect is absolutely worth every hour that it took to glue all of these on. It looks so much better than the original roof texture, and I would definitely do it again. Okay, so after about 3 hours of gluing on shingles, I finally have the entire roof done. So now we can start worrying about the paint job. Now for the color scheme of this house, I want to go with sort of like a pastel, maybe more of like a seaside cottage color scheme. So I'm going with a sort of creamy butter yellow color for the main part of the house. And then I'm also going to go with a white trim around the windows, brown roof. For the front door, I'm thinking sort of like a powder robin's egg blue, but we'll see what blue works best with the yellow and white. And then I'm also going to use that same color on the shutters, which I also have to make for the windows. And then once I have all of those base colors put down, I can then start worrying about the details. I'm also thinking about adding some ivy, because if you look, there's like so much blank space on this back half right here. I've learned from my village repaint videos that painting houses like this takes a long time, and this is a much bigger paint job than one of those little village houses. But it's a pretty simple house. There's not too many details, so hopefully it won't be too time consuming. But I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing up some paint colors, and we're gonna get started. So now it's time to start mixing up my paint colors, and I've gotten quite a few comments asking how I go about mixing my paint colors. Now, I know some people, they have a really hard time with this, but I've been mixing paint colors for a very long time, so I'm usually pretty good at getting to the exact shade that I'm looking for. Now, I am not the type of person to go out and buy the exact shade of paint that I'm looking for. I prefer to have a couple different sets of primary colors. I like to have a warm tone set, and I like to have a cool tone set. And if you have those, then you are good. You can mix absolutely any color that your heart desires. there really is no rhyme or reason to it. I just keep adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and eventually I get to the color I'm looking for. Now, I've gone ahead and mixed up my butter yellow here, and I'm giving the entire house a coat of this yellow, other than the roof. And I'm not really being too careful about avoiding any of the trim or anything like that, because we're going to be going back over all that stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just slapping this on, trying to get a good, generous coat on this wood, because this type of wood really likes to soak up the paint. So we want to get that out of the way so that we can start adding our details on top. Next, I'm going to start mixing up my color for the roof, which is kind of a dark chocolate brown color. So I'm using a little bit of this burnt orange and a little bit of black, and that's going to give me the color I'm looking for. Now, I did have to water it down a lot to get it to really saturate the cardboard shingles and get all in the cracks and crevices. There was a lot of little gaps to fill, so I ended up going over the roof twice with this brown, and even after the second coat there was still gaps in between the shingles. So I did end up going in with a very, very small brush and really just kind of dabbing it in there to fill in all those little gaps. But in the end, I got all of it covered completely. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised as the paint started to dry. It really soaked into that cardboard, and I love how the different types of cardboard absorbed differently. So it kind of gives some of the shingles a sort of weathered look, some of them look a little bit sun faded, and just generally it gave the whole roof a sort of watercolor illustration look, which I'm really, really happy with. It almost looks like something out of a Studio Ghibli movie, which I love. I did also go in with this lighter gray color, and I just lightly dry brushed it against the grain of the shingles just to highlight the edges and give it a little more contrast. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do for this scalloped edge around the roof line, but after looking at some inspo pictures, I landed on the idea of turning it into some of that very intricate gingerbread woodwork that you see on a lot of Victorian houses, and I really like how this turned out. I think the effect definitely does come across. I painted it that sort of dark brown color and then put the white over top, and from a distance I really do think that it looks as if it was cut out that way. Alright y'all, we have made it this far on the paint job, and I am loving how this house is looking. I am very, very pleased with the paint job so far. So now I can start working on the accent colored pieces, which is the front door and the shutters for the windows. I was toying with doing a sort of like really hot orange color, like sort of a rusty pumpkin color, but I just don't think that the orange is gonna pop the way that I want it to. So I think we are gonna go with the sort of like robin's egg blue color. I'll make a few samples and I'll hold them up and I'll see what I think, but I'm pretty sure that's what we're gonna go with. But yeah, let's go ahead and start mixing up our colors and get working on the shutters. So I'm going to start off by mixing a little bit of green, blue, and white acrylic paint. I'm going to mix these up until I have the shade that I'm looking for, and then I'm going to use this to paint the door completely. Now I ended up having to do 2 coats of this color, but I am really, really happy with this color. I think it was a great choice. I love this color. I like to call it Martha Stewart blue because after all, it is her signature color. But now that I've got the door painted, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the shutters. Now, to do the shutters, I basically took a piece of printer paper and I pressed it against one of the windows to give me an impression, and then I cut that out, traced the silhouette onto a piece of cardboard, and then I went ahead and cut all of those out, and then I cut them in half so that I have 2 shutters for each window. Once all my shutters were cut out, it was time to start painting them. I started by giving them a base coat of that same blue, and then I started painting all of the details, starting with some horizontal lines, some shading, and then ending it with some borders around the outside. And I think that they turned out pretty good. I think that they do come across as shutters. Oh my god, I wasn't even recording. Dang it. Oh, what can I say? It wouldn't be the first time that I forgot to hit record, but it's okay. You're not missing out on much. I am just once again using a little bit of hot glue to attach the shutters to the windows. Now, I am putting them on there with the hot glue, but I'm not pressing them in all the way. I'm just kind of letting the hot glue lift them from the surface just a little bit so that they're, I don't know, a little bit more dimensional. As you can see here, I am now adding in some of the foliage around the house, starting with this ivy that's sort of creeping up the side of the house. I just decided to paint it on instead of coming up with some sort of three-dimensional miniature flowers. I just decided to paint them on because I love the way the shutters look, so I figured why not, and in the end I am very happy that I made that decision. I also just went ahead and painted on some shrubs here. My painting techniques for plants is very simple. It's just throwing down some dark silhouettes and then highlighting each of the leaves with a lighter green, and usually it's very effective and it's very quick, and it's my go-to technique for flowers and plants of any kind. But these are the finishing touches, and this is the end of the process, so I am just going to let you guys enjoy the music and we'll be back with the reveal. Well, folks, this does conclude episode 1 of the Dollhouse series. I think we made a lot of really great progress this episode. I think I impressed myself just a little bit. When I started working on this, I definitely had a vision for what I wanted the exterior of the house to look like. And I would say that I hit the nail on the head. This is exactly what I was going for. I think the colors are great. I think the paint job is just good enough, and I think that it does portray that sort of little golden book illustration style. I really like the flat illustrated shutters. I really like the plants and the bushes being painted on. All around, it is exactly what I wanted. So I am super excited, and I cannot wait to start working on the inside, because I think the inside is going to be a lot of fun, and I want your guys' suggestions as to what you want to see inside the dollhouse. If you have any fun ideas, please drop them in the comments below. Give me ideas as to what you guys think we should do for the back of the dollhouse, because when I open it all the way out, there's plenty of room here for me to decorate this as either part of the house or as another decorative backdrop to stand our little sunnies in front of. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here for something really cool. I look forward to seeing what you all have to say. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please let me know down in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on a new video. I love you all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!